Today, I'll show you how to make a delicious chicken parmesan with crispy panko breadcrumbs and a homemade marinara sauce. It's a flavorful Italian dinner that everyone is going to love. For this recipe, you need 1 cup of marinara sauce. For convenience, you can use store-bought, but if you have more time, I'm going to show you how to make my rustic homemade version. I use whole sweet Italian plum tomatoes. It has a nice meaty texture, rich tomato flavor, and they're low in acidity. You need 56 ounces and just pour them into a strainer. Set over a bowl. This is going to help drain the juices. I use whole tomatoes because I can control the size. I'm going to grab a tomato and just crush it by hand. This helps break down the flesh. Just give it a gentle squeeze because there's a lot of juice on the inside. If you'd like, you could also use crushed tomatoes. It's going to give it a little bit of a thicker consistency and smoother texture, but I like a chunkier sauce. To mince the onion, cut off both ends. Make sure to leave the root end intact. Cut the onion down the middle. Just remove the peel. Cut really thin sliced pieces. And then use the claw and chop. Use the fanning motion to mince it down. We need 1/2 cup for the recipe. To mince the garlic, cut off each end. Then give it a quick smash. Peel off the skin. Hold it with clawed fingers and give a quick chop. Do the fanning motion with a knife. We need about 1 tablespoon. To add some fresh herbaceous notes, I'm going to chiffonade basil. Stack the leaves on top of each other to make it easier to cut all at one time. Then use rocking motion to create the chiffonade cut. This is going to give nice thin pieces. It smells so good already. We need 1/4 cup. Now that we have all the ingredients ready, let's head over to the stove. Heat a Dutch oven or heavy bottomed pot over medium heat. Once hot, add 2 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil. When the olive oil begins to shimmer, add 1/2 cup of minced onions. Sauté until softened and lightly browned, about 5 minutes. Add 1 tablespoon minced garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, and 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. Stir and cook until fragrant, about 30 seconds. Add the strained tomatoes and stir to combine. Increase heat to medium-high, cook and stir frequently until the liquid evaporates and the sauce begins to brown on the edges, about 10 minutes. I've been cooking the strained tomatoes for about 10 minutes. This is going to evaporate the moisture and it's going to concentrate the flavors. Also, the edges of the sauce are starting to brown, adding a lot more flavor dimension. Now I'm going to add back the strained tomato juice to help adjust the consistency and add more flavor. Add in 2.5 cups of the reserved tomato juice. Stir the sauce, scraping any brown bits from the pan. Reduce heat to simmer, stir and cook until the sauce is thickened, about 10 minutes. Stir in 1/4 cup chopped basil. Taste the sauce and season with more salt and pepper as desired. The sauce smells really good. It's been simmering for about 10 minutes, getting nice and thick. Now that it's ready, we can prepare the chicken, but before we do, make sure to preheat the oven so it's ready when we need it. Set the oven rack to the middle position. Preheat to 450 degrees. I have 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts that are about 8 ounces in size. I'm going to flatten them so that they cook evenly in the frying pan. I use a large resealable plastic bag because I just found that it keeps everything from making a mess and the juices inside. Work 1 piece at a time. Just put it inside the bag. Use the flat side of a meat mallet. And I'm going to flatten it into a 1/2 inch thick piece. You don't want the pieces to be too thick, otherwise the nice crumb topping is going to cook first and the center will still be raw. If you want to save some time, you can buy some thin cut pieces of chicken breast at the grocery store, but I like my trusty mallet and I'll leave a link to it in the video description. Now I'm going to season each side of the chicken with salt and pepper. This is going to add layers of savory flavor. To create a crispy crust, I'm going to use the standard breading procedure. I have all-purpose flour, egg wash, and breadcrumbs. For the egg wash, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil to 2 large eggs. Just whisk that until it's combined. The oil helps to thin out the egg wash. It also helps to brown underneath the breadcrumbs. Add 1/4 cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese to 1 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs. The cheese is going to add a nice nutty flavor to the chicken as well as help with binding of the coating. To start the process, we're going to dip the chicken in the flour first. I have 3/4 cups of flour and make sure you coat both sides. The starches in the flour act like a primer, making it easier for the egg wash to stick on. Then shake off any excess flour. Dip into the egg wash, coat both sides. These sticky egg proteins are going to help the breadcrumbs attach to the surface. As the proteins cook, it'll harden and keep that nice crust on top. Dip the chicken in the breadcrumb mixture. Make sure you press it down so that you get plenty of crumbs on top. Traditionally, fine store-bought breadcrumbs are used, but I like to use Japanese-style panko. It has a larger surface area and more porous crumb so that you get more of a crispy crunch when you bite into it. Going to continue to coat the rest of the chicken, but if you want to use your hands but you don't want to get breaded fingers, have one hand to use to coat with the dry ingredients and then use the other to do the egg wash. Just dip the chicken with this hand in the flour, transfer it to the egg wash, and then use your other hand to flip the chicken, transfer it to the breadcrumbs, and then use your dry hand to coat the chicken, pressing the breadcrumbs onto the surface. Heat a 12-inch non-stick skillet over medium-high heat and add a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Make sure to use a high smoke point oil for pan frying. This is going to prevent it from breaking down, causing off flavors in the chicken. We're going to work in batches, 2 pieces at a time for even cooking. Once the oil is shimmering, it reaches about 350 degrees. Carefully place 2 pieces of the chicken in the pan. Fry until the first side is golden brown and crispy, about 2 to 3 minutes. Turn the heat down to medium and flip the chicken over. Cook until golden brown and the internal temperature reaches 160 degrees, about 3 minutes. Transfer the chicken to a paper towel lined plate to briefly drain excess oil, and then place on a wire cooling rack set on top of a sheet pan. Discard the excess oil and wipe the pan clean. After frying the first 2 pieces, I clean the pan because if you leave any of the breading particles, they're going to start to burn and transfer the flavor to the chicken. Now I'm going to add some fresh oil. Add in a 1/2 cup of fresh vegetable oil and repeat the same cooking procedure with the 2 remaining pieces of chicken. For smaller pieces, you could place the fried chicken in a baking dish, but these are pretty big, so I have them on a foil-lined sheet pan. We're going to add a 1/4 cup in the middle of each piece. I don't like to place the sauce beneath the chicken because you work so hard to create the crunchy crust that I don't want it to get soggy. I have a 1/2 cup of shredded mozzarella that I'll place right on top of the sauce so it gets nice and melty. Bake until the cheese is melted and the sauce is warm, about 3 to 5 minutes. Wow, this looks incredible. Right before serving, I like to garnish with a little bit of freshly chopped basil. If you're looking for another Italian meal, give Grandma's famous meatballs a try right here. It's our family favorite. I hope you enjoyed learning the science behind chicken Parmesan, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up. It means a lot when you do. See you in the next video. Oh, can't wait to dig in. A little more.